Well, it's clear to me that China is pursuing a whole-of-nation approach to coerce, co-opt, and corrupt others in the region, and Taiwan is in the front of that coercion line.
I think this is a classic case of perpetually preparing for war to avoid it. The worst thing is to be complacent.
In the past fortnight, Taiwan's air defence zone has been breached repeatedly by dozens of fighter jets and bombers from the communist mainland.
Every time these bombers are sent across the median line and Taiwan is having to scramble its jets in response, it is a huge cost financially and psychologically on the Taiwanese people and the Taiwanese politicians.
Former Australian diplomat in China, Natasha Kassam, says President Xi's People's Liberation Army no longer respects Taiwan's boundaries.
A year ago, they were sending a lot more surveillance aircraft. Now we can see that they're sending bombers. There's also far more of these aircraft crossing, more than 100 just last weekend. This is the PLA testing its own capability, but also demonstrating that it still has red lines when it comes to Taiwan, and it wants the United States, Taipei, Australia, and everyone else in the region to know that.
The nationalist Chinese government of Chiang Kai-shek fled to Taiwan, leaving the communists in control of the 700 million Chinese on the mainland.
When the communists conquered the mainland in 1949, ending China's long civil war, the Nationalist Army and its supporters fled to Taiwan and formed their own government, eventually becoming a democracy. Beijing has never relinquished its claim on the territory, and Taiwan has always prepared to be invaded.
The Chinese Reds are aware they cannot take Taiwan by any means.
In 1973, the US recognised the government of Communist China, but soon after created the Taiwan Relations Act, ensuring the island continues to receive US military support.
It's not a formal treaty, but it's quite a large obligation. So America says if pushed, it will take action against any aggressive moves by Beijing to resolve the situation with Taiwan.
A situation Australia appears to be being slowly drawn into.
Beijing has torn up the One Country, Two Systems Treaty on Hong Kong. It's put upwards of 1 million Uyghurs into concentration camps. It's boosted cyber spying on its own citizens, cancelled popular personalities in favour of a cult of the Red Emperor.
I'll leave the political commentary to the politicians, Michael, but certainly the other things that the former Prime Minister articulated are facts on the ground. To me, it's an articulation of water is wet.
China, however, represents the greatest long-term strategic threat to the United States, and indeed the region.
Until May, retired Admiral Philip Davidson was the top US commander in the Indo-Pacific, watching the inexorable rise of China's People's Liberation Army.
China has made advances in their capability at a much quicker rate than any of the military intelligence estimates have produced over the last dozen years or so. To speak about why should the rest of the world be concerned, the PLA fired in testing and training more ballistic missiles last year than the rest of the world combined.
Aside from stating long-held Communist Party rhetoric of reunification, no one knows Xi's intentions on retaking Taiwan by force. But analysts say there are potential triggers, such as Taiwan declaring independence after its next presidential election.
And that's why I think the world needs to watch the next election very carefully in a couple of years' time in Taiwan, because if it is someone who is dogmatic in their support for independence for Taiwan, then every red light starts to flash.
But other China analysts are more sceptical about the talk of invasion.
The idea of an invasion of Taiwan being inevitable actually does the Communist Party's work for it. It makes the threat seem so big and so scary that we have no choice but to give in now. When we talk about this inevitable conflict, we undermine 70 years of deterrence that has kept Taiwan free.
Australia is not being asked to defend Taiwan, yet.
It's our policy that we would defend ourselves by ourselves. Taiwan is absolutely committed to defend itself. But of course, when there's a crisis, if the Australian government can go along with other major partners of ours and tell China that the invasion, the war is not right, that would be highly appreciated.
Well, I think it's in the interest of the international community to prevent war from happening. You know, that requires an improved deterrent posture. The object is to prevent war. And I do think that's possible with the correct deterrent posture.
The first result of any military clash between China and Taiwan could be an epic humanitarian disaster.
So the Taiwanese Minister of Defence a couple of days ago said on the record that in 2025 China will have the capacity. The capacity means militarily that it can be done, but it also means that there would probably be devastating consequences in terms of life, material, kind of on both sides. The civilians in Taiwan will be the ones that suffer overwhelmingly. I think that's a situation, therefore, where we as outsiders have to be cautious.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.